everybody. It's Deanna, and I'm here, Fearless Entrepreneurship Live. I have Elizabeth Nader with me, and I'm so excited.
Hi.
She has been, hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I know you've been watching our lives, and I know that Lori has been on, and you and Lori are friends, and I've been so intrigued by everything. I checked out your website. I totally creeped on you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to talk to this woman. I have to know her story because it's so interesting. I checked out your resume, and what a resume. I mean, and you're amazing. You do it all.
It's unique. It's varied. But I first want to tell you, thank you for inviting me because I've been watching you do these and I love the kind of people you're bringing on. Actually, I'm probably going to hire one of them, one of the videos that you did a while ago. I need some help in that area. So you've been adding like a lot of value and I love that. So I love jumping in and just getting these little tidbits from everybody. And I know that you recognize people's individual gifts. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I love hearing that you may use somebody to help you out because that's really what I want to do. I mean, the whole purpose of this is, to bring value to business owners, but hopefully somebody's watching and they're like, hey, like that's my person and they can really help me. And I think that's awesome. And here's Lori. I love it. Synergy. Yeah. Yes, Lori.
Hey, Lori. Absolutely.
So I want to talk today about fear and adversity, right? And I think right now, not I think, but I'm pretty confident that when everything really started with this COVID-19, a lot of people first felt fear, the uncertainty. And it is scary, even as an entrepreneur, when you're doing anything, when you're launching that business, when you're launching a new service, you're launching a new product, it gets really overwhelming. How do we manage that?
Yeah, well, first of all, fear and adversity are the words du jour, right? I mean, this is all we've been seeing since March. And I think it's actually ratcheting up now. And the reason why is I think that the first was the fear of the unknown of what's going to happen to my business, to my job. What does it mean to be quarantined? And then once we got used to that to a degree, it became now the fear is, well, what does my life look like when we open up? And, and I know everyone watching this is a different stage. I'm in New Jersey. We're very closed down still. Okay. So I know you guys in Montana are opening or, you're different, but there is this fear like of what is coming next and how do I recreate my life in whatever this phrase that everyone hates, this new normal, right? What does that look like? So fear and adversity is sort of, I'm saying right now, like I love what I do, being in mindset coach and that being my passion. It's even more important right now that we deal with our mindsets as we face this because never before, I think, have we had such an onslaught. The only thing I could probably make it analogous to would be 2008 to a degree, depending on how much you were hurt by the recession, but even more so really the Great Depression, which to most of the younger, not like I didn't go through that, obviously. Okay, I'm not saying that. but you're like, wow, that's amazing.
You look great.
Yeah, right? It's really good. Yeah, it's great. I have great skin tone from my grandmother. No, listen, my grandma went through it. And I learned so much from her experience in that. And I watched how it changed generations. And I watched how the fears that came out of that experience in that generation stuck with them and also were handed down to their children, which would have been my mom's generation. So I think that when we go through these, like momentous occasions, these strong things in society and culture, we have to be careful how we respond. And right now, the fear first was being infected by the virus, but I have to tell you what, I'm more concerned about people being infected by fear.
Yes, I agree because in 2008, I was actually in real estate at that point. And my world shattered and everything got turned upside down for me. More so then than now for me, just because of what I do and what industry that I was in. And I do recognize exactly what you said. I recognize things that I do now because of that. Now, in 2008, you kind of were in something a little bit different as well, right?
Yeah, well, we were right where you were. We were in construction. So we owned our own family business and we had started that in 2001, 2002, and had grown it to the point where we were actually on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list in 2006. And I mean, things were just cooking. And I'm a born entrepreneur. So is my husband. We're sales and marketing people. And we just loved it. And we were really growing it probably too quickly now that I look back. But it was an amazing experience. But we were in the bullseye like you were of the implosion, right? And when I say like literally overnight, everything disappeared. The phone stopped ringing, you know, all of our customers had no money, you know, this kind of thing. So when you go through something like that, there's a fear, if you're not careful, that becomes part of you, right? It can be part of your DNA because you've been through something difficult and you know the truth about what happened to you. And so now you fast forward to 2020, and now we're seeing a different story, but a similar impact on small businesses. We're still small business people. And when it first started to kind of roll out, I did a podcast on it where I went through this like stages of grief. Like, wait a minute, what's going on here? This isn't coming here. Yeah, trauma, absolutely, Lisa. And I went through the stages of grief, like, okay, I'm in denial. This isn't going to happen. It's not going to affect my business. We're in a little different business now, our main company business, our main family business. And then I started to realize, no, it's going to. And then the whole thing kind of came crashing down. And I got to the point where I realized, here we go. So I had a choice to make. And we all have a choice to make at that point. And I could either say, here we go again. I'm going to slide into this familiar fear because I've been there before. Right. And I'm afraid of all these things that are about to happen to me. I don't know that they will, but I go back to, our mind goes back to what's happened in the past, right? Yeah. So I start to think, is that going to happen now? And I had a choice to make. I had a choice to embrace that old fear and live with it and just become focused on that. And you know, what we focus on enlarges. Or right. I have a choice to say, okay, not going back there. I am deciding to look at this differently. And while the world around me contracts, literally, I'm going to expand. I'm going to expand in my mindset. I'm going to expand in my faith. I'm going to look at fear in the face and say, what is real about it? What about it can motivate me? And what about it do I need to put aside? And I am not going to have the same reaction again. So I made that determination. And I have to tell you, with 4 kids watching me, you know, they're older than they were in 2008. I had to model that, you know, so I had to say, okay, how am I reacting to all of this fear that is swirling around us all? And it's palpable, isn't it? Don't you feel it in the atmosphere?
Yes. Yes. And, you know, I hear what you're saying and I'm like, you know what? I did that too. But I also know that there are people that you can tell them, right, to just focus on the good and focus on the positive and don't let that fear take over. Right.
Yeah. Well,
and it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you think because you had to be an example for your kids and I felt the same way, right? I'm like, they're watching me that it made it easier, or maybe it held you accountable. I don't want to say it's easier, but maybe that held you accountable.
Sure.
Really.
It gave me more of a mission, right? Because they're watching, but also as a company owner, the employees are watching. How are they going to handle this? And also as a mindset coach, am I going to do what I preach? Because, you know, I mean, I've been preaching all of these things from what I've learned from failure, from fear, from success, from all those things. Am I going to put that right now I'm facing that. Am I going to put that all in motion? I had a decision to make, and it's not as simple as focus on something else. It isn't. The idea of positive thinking isn't enough. Positive thinking has no power. It has no roots. It has no legs. It has to be bigger than that. You have to emotionalize positive thinking so that it becomes actually a belief that actually drives you. Because every fear we have is rooted in a limiting belief. Every one of them. Every one of them. I mean, when you think about it, it's not that you're afraid of the thing, you're afraid of what might happen to you. So you're not afraid of a bear, you're afraid that the bear might eat you. Right?
True, right?
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. But and you're in Montana, so you can understand that, right? Although I
totally get that, yeah.
I think you should be afraid of snakes out there. That's what I saw on your page.
There are snakes, yes. I'm afraid of the snakes. There's mountain lions also.
Okay. So you can pick your whatever animal that applies to Montana. Okay, I'm a little different out here, but it's not the thing. It's what it might do to you, which is interesting because a bear is real, but the idea that it might eat me is kind of a little bit of a stretch. I mean, I don't know if I put myself in the right situation, if I don't do this, if I don't do wisdom, if I don't. There are a lot of choices, actions, and things that happen between bear and being eaten by bear. Okay, I'm simplifying it, but. So our fears are rooted in these limiting beliefs. So we have to look at the fear and say, what am I really afraid of? What am I really telling myself? Because a positive thought's not going to eradicate a deeply held belief. We have to deal with that deeply held belief first.
So how do you shift that, Elizabeth? Like, let's just say that right now, hypothetically, let's just say that we have a business that because of everything that's going on, businesses slow down a lot. Right now, they're starting to reopen, right? But there's this fear: am I going to be able to make it? Am I going to be able to survive? And you want to focus. And again, I'm thinking like you want to focus on all the negative that's happening, right? Like people won't come back to everything. They're going to take their time. It's going to leak through. But how do you shift that and start
using it,
embracing or managing this fear, because it can be so real and it can overtake those emotions of what you're talking about.
Well, first of all, we don't want to operate in emotions, but that's a whole nother thing. Because we don't. But I mean, we have emotions, they're real and we address them, but we don't want to operate from them because they lie to us. Yeah. But fear, one of the acronyms I love, and there are several out there, is false evidence appearing real. So again, it's fear of something that's not happening yet. It's not the bear, it's the bear eating me, right? So first of all, you have to recognize that we're afraid of a what if. And that in itself should tell us that how is that energy worth spending? I mean, we don't know if it will happen or not. You can use it as a motivator and you can say, all right, I'm experiencing pain. That means adversity. That means opportunity. First of all, we need to set that up. So whereas most people tend to see adversity and pain and therefore shrinking and fetal position and scared, right there, I need people to make a shift and say opportunity. So that's the first thing you have to do. And when the national shutdown was announced on April 1st, thereabouts, I remember watching that press conference and I went into my Mindset Academy group and I said, okay, guys, we have a choice to make. We just got locked down, shut down, whatever word you want to use. They're all pretty heavy and pretty negative.
Right.
This is adversity, but I see it as an opportunity and I want you to see it as a gift. So we started this gift of 30 days. It's a gift. How can you use this to start to change your life, create new patterns, new habits? How can you shift and pivot and say, wow, this is an opportunity versus, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I just shut down. So the first thing to answer that question, it's a big answer, but the first thing.
This is all such great stuff. I love it.
These are little things that really make a big difference, is to see adversity as an opportunity. Okay. And we as humans tend not to change unless there is pain involved in our lives. We don't generally wake up in the morning and say, which bad habit am I going to eradicate today? Right? We don't. We go to where the pain is, or we go to where the pleasure is. But the pain, we have to deal with it. Okay, let's make a change. It's not until we feel so much of that it forces the issue. Now, yes, you can go on the rest of your life and avoid that pain and avoid making that change. But you and I both know it's never going to go away if we don't address it. So I look at that and I say adversity equals opportunity. So that's the first thing that you do. And that shift alone is huge. I want you to think about that shift now that everyone has, entrepreneur or not, depending on who's listening. Everyone has this heightened sense of small business, which, by the way, is a huge blessing to small business, because everyone in the world now understands how small business is a huge part of their life, because they don't have it right now. They can't go get their hair cut. They can't get a pedicure. They can't go to the local store for flowers. They can't. Okay, so they understand now. So as a small business, when you look at this is a time to pivot. You are seeing it. I am seeing it because we work with entrepreneurs. I am seeing people look at the adversity and say, okay, I'm a restaurant. What am I going to do? I'm in the eye of the storm. I'm going to pivot. And I'm doing, delivery and curbside, but I'm going to do produce boxes, or I'm going to do wine boxes, or whatever that looks like, right? And now we've opened up new sources of revenue. Yes, it's a hard time, but when things come back, and they will, because we will come back.
Absolutely.
We will. They have new customers. They have a new stream of revenue. They've opened their mind to possibilities about their business that had this not happened, they would have never done, because you don't just do it. You do it when pain happens.
That's so true.
That is a huge thing. And I think you can apply that to your life. Choose something right now that I look back on the last 30 days and I see things that have changed that I was intentional about, and I love it. And I'm saying, thank you for, this is a small business owner saying, thank you for the shutdown. Like, that's crazy that I'm saying that, but it's enriched my life. Honestly, it has.
Yes, I agree with you. It has with me as well. And in a business sense, I've gained more focus. I've gotten more organized. I've been much more efficient with my time. And then in personal, it's like the time spent together is more quality. It's not rushed. And that to me is really, really important as well. And I agree. I'm like, I know that this isn't a great thing, but I see more good happening right now overall than bad.
I do too. And I have sort of righteous anger about some things that have happened to our economy, right? And my concern about how society looks like when we're opening up. But I definitely think that I want to, if everyone can be intentional about recreating life in a way that they value now, as a society, we'll do better. And Lisa's saying, my pain became my purpose. Yeah. And that is ultimately, Lisa, one of the most important parts of purpose. Okay. So I, for one, am grateful to God that I know my purpose. And this is what I help people find, by the way. Part of what I do is overcoming limiting beliefs and finding your purpose. But that purpose would have never come together without some serious pain. I write about that in my book. What was that pain? So it is necessary. And so therefore we must embrace it. I had a young kid say to me once, well, I don't have to go through anything to find my purpose. And I was like, oh man. Okay. I was like, only when that happens, because it's not that I wish it on you, but it happens to all of us. So what do we do with it? We turn it into purpose. There's a reason for it. Don't let it just happen and go to waste.
Right.
Let it become something bigger.
So what led you to become, because you're a mindset coach.
Yeah.
You are a life coach. You're an author.
Yeah.
You've got Master Your Mindset, The Master's Way, which I think that's the book cover right behind you.
Yeah, I made that really big so you wouldn't miss it.
You are a speaker.
Yeah.
What led you into doing all this?
A lot of pain, a lot of failure. A lot of failure. No, listen, our paths are also unique, but I love that I can share with you, at my age, which is, I don't know. I think I'm older than you, by the way. Our kids' ages aren't, I think I'm older. But I can tell you that it's years and years of trying to figure out why I was made the way I was. Like I was a generalist. I was really good in business, but a lot of different things. And I was clearly a born entrepreneur because I can do a lot of everything kind of at the top level, right? Even though I love certain verticals, but as an entrepreneur, you got to be able to look at a contract. You got to be able to do marketing, sales. You've got to be able to do HR, whatever, right? There was all right. And so I was like, why am I not good at one thing? And one thing, I wanted to be good at one thing. I really wanted to be an Olympic skater, if you want to know the truth.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that's what I wanted to be. But my mom didn't want to get up at 4 a.m. and take me to ice time, and then I'm like, come on. And then she told me I'd have thick thighs when I got older. So I gave it up. No. I love her. But, I find myself telling my kids that, like, you don't want to do that. Actually, I don't want to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my desire. I always wanted to do one thing, but that's not how I was made. I was made to be someone who could see the bigger picture. And the gifts that I have are very entrepreneurial. So I went through the corporate world. I went into startups and I was able to fine tune my business experience. All the while, faith was a big part of my life. And then starting my entrepreneurism really in depth once I got married with my husband, and having this great success and learning so much more than you ever learn in any master's program, even though I love education, but, on the job, so to speak, in the business, and having that great success and then having that huge failure taught me so much. So I used all of that and I started coaching entrepreneurs like probably 10, 11 years ago, helping people start their businesses. Greenfield, early stage, right?
Right.
And what's interesting is I kept running up against the same issues: mindset,
Yes.
limiting beliefs. And any entrepreneur that's listening understands when you start a business, all your junk comes out. Like you're not going to hide it. It's there. You know it. And so I kept coming up against the same kind of limiting beliefs. And I finally realized, like, this is not working. They've got to deal with that first.
Yeah.
They've got to deal with that first. So I started to shift. And without going into too much detail, it became like entrepreneurial mindset coaching, which shifted into like, mindset coaching in general. And then I am finishing my doctorate in theology. And I brought that into the mix and sort of grounded the whole idea on how we are made spirit, soul, and body, and what that looks like, and how to deal with our mindsets and what purpose looks like. And it all just came together in like this amazing way. And here I am. And I couldn't be more happy to know what I was made for. And I want that for everybody else.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Was it an easy fit when you started? Because I'm familiar with mindset and I have faith. I'm Christian, right? But when you started studying, was it like just like this light bulb went off, or did you already know that there was this correlation between the two?
Yeah, it's a good question because I was blessed to be brought up in a spiritual family. So I sort of already knew. And my dad, who I lost when I was 23, but he was like Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, all wrapped into one. I mean, this is who this guy was. So it comes naturally to me because I was brought up in that environment. I mean, he used to sit in his office every Saturday morning at home and listen to cassette tapes. For those of you who don't know what that is, he didn't have the internet, and he was constantly doing self-improvement, right? Napoleon Hill, I could hear his voice. I could hear all that. So I had this intuitive sense, and it was driven into me. But when I had a moment, I'll never forget it, when I was sitting down to outline what is mindset, like the definition of it, of its, deeply held beliefs and a way of thinking that affects your actions. And immediately I had this divine download of how it absolutely tracks to spirit, soul, and body, those three words. And all of a sudden this whole thing opened up to me. And I was humbled by it, but like freaked out because all this revelation came to me.
Right.
I went to my friends and, in ministry, or I went to my teachers and can you just please tell me I'm not crazy? Like I'm looking at these scriptures and I'm looking at this connection, and they're like, no, that's it. And so for me, that was my unique message. And so for me, like my brain just went, and it was this moment where I realized this is where the power is, combining that. That's power, that's true healing, and that's truly the only way you ever conquer limiting beliefs and really grow and heal and walk in purpose, is with that power behind this concept. So yeah, it was a moment where I just was like, oh my gosh, and then it all just started flowing.
Wow. Is there like a scripture or something that you tell yourself, like when you do get scared, or when it's like, oh no, like the world is starting to shake and I'm afraid it's going to crumble again and I don't want it to do it? Is there something that you say to yourself that instantly triggers the change?
Romans 28. Yeah. God turns all things to good for those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And I put that along with no weapon formed against me will prosper, because if you really look at the language there,
I love that one.
Yeah, on both of those. First of all, it's recognizing that weapons will be formed against you wherever they come from, right? And we talk about resistance in my book. And if you've ever not read the Art of War, the War of Art, not the Art of War. That's really big. The War of Art. It's an amazing book by Stephen Pressfield that talks about resistance. So resistance comes at us, right? So the weapon formed against us shall not prosper. So I know, okay, it's okay that I'm experiencing adversity, but it's not going to prosper if I do the following things, if I have faith. And then the other one that couples with that so beautifully is that all things will be turned to good for those who love God. And so for me, I look back and I say, whenever you're really stressed out and you're really in fear, it's so good to look back and say, but look, all this was turned to good in my life. And you see that faithfulness and you see that truth, and you say it will happen again. And no matter what you have to go through, and we have to go through some things, but the promise is not it won't happen to you. The promise is it won't prosper and it will be turned to good. That's good enough for me. And it's true and it works. Can you You tell me that.
Absolutely. I can relate. I always remind myself that my faith is bigger than fear. And sometimes things don't work out the way I want. Like I do have an agenda in my mind and I want things to go exactly the way that I want them to go, and they don't. But if I remind myself that faith is bigger than fear, and I don't know God's plans, because I will tell you, I never planned to be where I am right now. This is not what I would have written in my blog had I written it, wrote it years ago. But I know this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So even when things for me have not gone well or not gone right, I really just have to put my faith in him. There is a bigger reason. There's a bigger purpose for that. And I've got to just trust. And I, maybe on one hand, that's like taking me off the hook a little bit. Like he's in charge, not me. So, but for me, it helps my mindset going, you know what? I'm trusting this journey I'm on, and I don't get it. Or maybe I do really get it, or, but
how do you not do that though? How do you not trust in something bigger than yourself? Right? I mean, faith over fear, Kathy. Absolutely. I don't know how to operate without trusting something bigger than myself. And what Kathy's saying, this faith over fear, it's like this constant pivot between the two, okay? Because they do not coexist. They will not coexist. They are opposite of each other. And I use this this exercise with my clients. I use it with my kids a lot. My poor kids are like, they have to go through all this stuff with me. I've proven it all through them. In fact, my kids said to me the other day, Mom, if my arm fell off, you would tell me it's a limiting belief. Like they're just at it, like they've had it, right? But what I do through this exercise is when we're having a result in our life that's not good, we can actually work back through our choices, our words, our feelings, our emotions, and we can find the thought. We can find the negative limiting belief that caused all of that. It's like this cascade effect. And what we end up finding is that we're in fear. So our feelings like gratitude, jealousy, envy, peace, these are feelings. All those gazillion words of feelings are rooted in an emotion of either faith or fear. So you have to identify which one it is. And if you're operating in fear, there's a limiting belief behind it. So what is that limiting belief that you've allowed to become controlling in your life? That's what we are on a mission to find and to eradicate. And we do this the rest of our lives, but I want to promise you, if you do the work, you do eradicate them. Another one comes up, you deal with it, right? You deal with it.
Absolutely.
But it becomes easier. It's like this, it becomes easier. And it is a process, Lisa. It is. And it works. I am telling you, it works.
Yes. I love that. That's good stuff. How can people get your book?
Yeah.
How can we get it? I know it's on, I'm going to try to pull it over here to the link.
Yeah. Well, it's on Amazon. So that's easy enough to get. You guys can see it right there. Master Your Mindset the Master's Way. But that's a big sound panel I use for my podcast. I'm not so full of myself that I need my book so big, but I thought that would be fun. But it is on Amazon. And then on my website at elizabethnader.com, you can actually download the last chapter of the book called The Blessing of Failure. And it's actually the first chapter I wrote. So it's all about why failure is so important and why it's such a blessing. So you can download that there. And you can also be a part of my community on Facebook. There's Master Your Mindset Academy, which is just a private group. You can join that. Obviously, it's free, and be a part of all that inspiration and sharing. I have a podcast every Tuesday, Master Your Mindset Radio. You can do that. I also have some online courses at masteryourmindsetacademy.com. So lots of different ways. Just on my website, you'll find it all.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Who do you have coming up? I'm putting you on the spot.
I have a lot of people coming
on your podcast.
Yeah. Well, on my podcast, I'm funny with that on my podcast. So I have, like, Lori helps me scheduling interviews. Right?
So I should have Lori.
Yeah, Lori. But in between those, I have this way of, like, I just sit with myself, and then sometimes it'll be Monday night. Literally, I'm like, that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm very spiritually led what to talk about. And awesome. I mean, I need that because this isn't about me, right? So I kind of wait for that inspiration. But I'm also doing some Facebook Lives like you do, which is really fun. And there's one coming up in 2 weeks I'm doing with Dr. Lorraine Maida, who is, she's an amazing woman. She's an MD, but she's more of a naturopath. So she's going to talk about fear and mindset and how it affects your body. And we'll probably,
I love that.
Yeah, we're going to probably get into some COVID stuff, right? But really actionable things. So I'm always looking to bring that to the community, to give, mindset is so big. There's so much we can deal with: money, failure, health, spirituality, your mind, all of this. So there's a lot there. It never ends, the subject.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And I am going to order your book as soon as we're done with this. So, because it sounds amazing and I have to read it.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a great conversation. I am so grateful for this conversation because just so much really good insight, and I love it. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day. So thank you.
Anytime, Deanna. It was great to talk to you. I love what you do. I know we're going to do stuff in the future. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Definitely. You're absolutely welcome. And we'll catch everyone next time.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.